Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson here with my beautiful, talented co-host and producer, Jade Harrell. What's up, Jade?
Hey, Shawn. How you doing?
How
you doing?
Is that me? You're impersonating me?
No,
Wow.
Absolutely not.
In my face.
How you doing?
How are you today?
I am inspirappy.
Inspirappy?
Yes.
What is that?
Inspired and happy about it.
I like it. I thought I could figure that one out.
I know.
Inspirappy.
Inspirappy.
Well, I hope everyone else is doing Inspirappy today. We've got a phenomenal show for you today and a truly just legendary guest. And I know that you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode, and I'm truly excited to deliver this for you because we've talked about this many times in the show because, it can't be said enough that the inner game determines the outer game.
Absolutely.
You can have all of the strategies in the world for changing your body and all the practices, but if you don't have that inner game, if you don't have your thermostat set correctly a high level of achievement with your mindset, your emotional strength, your mental strength, then we're going to keep falling back into patterns and we're going to continue to struggle. So this is why it's so important to get that inner game together. And we've got the man to talk about that. So, but first, let's give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, onnit.com. Head over to ONNIT/model for 10% off all of your health and human performance supplements. I'm a huge fan of the Hemp Force protein. That's my post-workout protein that I use, the most bioavailable protein for the human body. No weird gastrointestinal distress from some whey protein allergies and also because this is something that's much lower on the food chain. As you move up the food chain, toxicity goes up. Yeah. This is organic. You don't have to worry about drinking the whey coming from literally thousands of different cows. It gets a little bit gross, but this is a plant source, 35% protein by weight in nature. It's one of the most dense protein foods in the world. And it tastes incredible. Not any random hemp protein, but Hemp Force tastes incredible. So that's one of my favorite things. Also, the Shroom Tech Sport, the Shroom Tech Immune. These are two other things that I use on a regular basis. Head over to ONNIT.com/model for 10% off. Now let's go ahead and get into the iTunes review of the week.
Well, this one comes from Jess S12. 5 stars. She says, it's awesome. I have learned so much listening to Shawn's podcast. He always offers a spectrum of information that always seems relevant to something I want to learn more about. Shawn really helps to clear up all the false information regarding health and provides true and genuine information on each topic. I just signed up to work with Shawn and I can't wait to get started. After just one consultation on the phone, he blew me away with information about my specific issues I would never have known about. Truly an awesome person and podcast alike.
Wow. Thank you so much for leaving that review. And this was a little while ago when I was still doing consultations.
Right? That's not an open invitation.
A shout out to you, and thank you everybody for leaving these reviews on iTunes. And everybody, this just speaks to how much I can't even tell you how much I appreciate this. Yeah. This really speaks to my heart, and I know it speaks to Jade's big, beautiful heart.
Yeah. It's thumping right now. Can you hear it?
And I really, really do appreciate it. And I'm honored that you would share these kind words with me and about our show. So thank you so much. Now let's go ahead and get into our special guest and our topic of the day. Today we have on Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor is one of the greatest teachers and speakers in the field of success and personal development in history. Truly, there are few who have done it better and made a greater impact than Bob has. Bob has appeared as one of the stars in the hit movie The Secret and has helped to bring the tools and tactics of truly living a great life to the masses. Millions of people worldwide have been positively affected by Bob's message, and he's here today with us to give you the insights you need to live your best life ever. Sorry.
Heather.
To live your best life ever. I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show, Mr. Bob Proctor. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm inspappy.
Yes, inspirappy. You're with me, Bob.
I'm inspirappy. I think Jade's got it down pat.
I love it.
Give thanks, Bob. Thanks.
I like listening to what your day has.
Give thanks.
You got a great show, Shawn. I like it.
Bob, I appreciate, that means the world coming from you. I truly do appreciate that.
You got a good show. There's good energy. And I think Jade adds a dimension to it that you need.
Yes. I receive that, and I know it's true.
I do, and I'm hugging you through the airwaves.
I got your hug. Thank you.
Well, Bob, you've got a phenomenal story of how you kind of got started in all of this. So can you share a little bit about that, how you got started? And I know that, even way back in the day, like you even dropped out of high school. So just take us a little bit through your story and how you've impacted so many people.
Well, I think I was like a lot of young guys. I was just wandering around, lost until I was 26. I went to high school for 2 months. I didn't leave. They asked me to leave. I was as happy as they were, though, when they asked me. I hated school. Nobody ever got me to like it. I worked at dumb jobs. I just took anything I could get. And I was an unhappy human being. And I was fortunate when I was 26, I met a man who saw something in me that I obviously didn't see in myself. And he said that if I would do exactly what he told me, I could have anything I wanted. Well, of course, I didn't believe that, but I believed he believed it. The guy spoke with such conviction. And he asked me if I read anything, and I said, no, I can't read. Now, that wasn't true. I could, not well, but I could. And he gave me this book. I've got it. I've been reading this book for 55 years. Wow. And I read it every day. It's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've got a big elastic around it so it doesn't fall apart. Mm-hmm. And I started to read it, and everything in my life changed. He got me to sit down and think of what I wanted. All I wanted was some money. And he said, well, how much money do you want? Oh, I said, anything would have been a lot. I was earning $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. So, it was a hopeless situation. But like I say, I think a lot of people live like this. Yeah. If I had taken every cent I earned for 18 months and paid debts, I would have just broken even. Nothing to live on. So, I couldn't see the light. I just couldn't see it at all. But he said, listen, forget all that. That's why you can't do it. Read this book. And of course, Hill tells you there's a secret in the book. And he said, if you can find the secret in the book, you can get what you seriously want. And he tells you to write your goal on a card. So I wrote my goal on a card, and I've been carrying a card in my pocket with my goal on it ever since. Yeah. That's 55 years ago. And I wrote on it that I wanted $25,000. I didn't believe I could get it. I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. But I kept reading the card. Now, years later, I look back, and I realized what I had done. I went from thinking of debt and having to pay bills, I started to think of earning money. Yeah. Now, the natural question there is, well, weren't you thinking of earning money? No, I wasn't. I was thinking of debt. People who are in debt and have a goal of getting out of debt will probably stay in debt forever. And because whatever you think about, that's what's going to happen. Well, somebody said there was good money cleaning floors. I started to hear people talk about earning money, and I started to think about it. And I said, I'm not proud, I'll clean floors. So I started cleaning offices. I got one office to clean at $15 a time, and I cleaned it twice a month. Then I got another one at $65. Well, by the end of the year, I had my income at $175,000. Then I took it over $1 million. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. The thing took off like a rocket. I never stopped studying this book. Then I got into Earl Nightingale's condensed narration of the book, and I got into studying all of Earl's stuff. And so I have thought about this, and I don't think it would have mattered what I was doing. I was going to win because I was following the right direction. I did exactly what I was told. And but I had to ask myself, how is this happening? I was earning all kinds of money. I was living in England at the time. I had opened an office there. And I thought, there's something strange here. A lot of people have read Think and Grow Rich. They weren't doing what I was doing. There's a lot of people cleaning offices, but they weren't doing what I was doing. Right. And I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you got to be really smart. Well, I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't get a good job. I didn't have a good job. I owned the company. So I started to really question all my beliefs. Right. And I found that most of them wouldn't hold water. Yeah. And I made up my mind I was going to find out what happened. And I started to study. It took me 9.5 years. And when I finally got the dots to connect, all I wanted to do was teach it. Yeah. And I've even found out why I wanted to teach it. You don't enjoy anything until you share it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. You get a new suit or a new dress or a new car or a new microphone. You want to share it, you know?
Right.
And all I wanted to do was teach this to people because I knew that if I could do it, anybody could do it. I mean, I had nothing going for me that everybody didn't have going for them.
Yeah.
And I got carried away with it. I've gone into prisons. I spent 5 years, I'd go in one Saturday a month for 5 years, maximum security. And I watched people change their lives. I had them paroled to me, they've changed their lives. We were picking up people out of the park and we'd wash them and we'd like watch people. We wouldn't let them out of our sight. I was thinking, will this work for anybody? And those people's lives changed. I've gone into companies like Prudential Insurance, the largest company in the world back in the early 70s. We raised their sales by hundreds of millions of dollars. And you know, it's a strange thing, Shawn. I found that when I found out why I changed, I found out hardly anybody knows why they're winning.
Yeah.
Large corporations do not know why their stars are stars. And so they can't, if they knew, they can't give it to everybody. And that's what I've spent the last 40-some years doing. I love it.
And doing it very successfully, you know, at a high level. And you've impacted the lives of so many people. You impacted my life, definitely, far before this conversation. And, you know, I love the fact that this was really brought by the revelation that anything that we want or that we want to have in our lives, it's not worth having until we share it. And the example that you gave of, you know, even if it's a suit, because you don't get a new suit and you put it on, you look in the mirror like, wow, this looks great. I'm going to go take a nap in it. Right? It's like, I want to share this, you know, and now you don't necessarily have to go out and connect with people, but, you know, you could take a selfie and share it on social media, but you still want to share it. And it's so valuable.
If you're looking at a sunset alone, it looks good. But if you're there with somebody to say, look at that, well, they're looking at it. You're telling them to it's sharing. You've got to share it.
Yeah.
Or you don't enjoy it.
So true. You know, and this is so important because, you know, you brought up that your driving force in the beginning, and it's evolved since then, but it was to get out of debt, you know, and you shifted over to making abundance, making enough money to do and have and be all the things that you want. And our financial health is really important. This is the Model Health Show. And we're talking about all the aspects of life that contribute to your health. And your financial health matters, especially in this world today. It's a huge stressor for people because, you know, your finances are really what help to drive you being able to do things. You know, it's an exchange of energy for sure, but it's just the way that our society is built, whether you like it or not. If you
it's a medium of exchange that you use for other people's products and services.
Right.
I see money only used for two things. One is to make you comfortable. The more comfortable you are, the more creative you can become. And the second one is to extend the good you do far beyond your own presence.
There we go.
And you want to, like, our company's locked in. We build schools in Africa. And we got into this about 4 years ago, and we love it. We build a school every 2.5 weeks. Our goal is to build one every day. And we do it through Cynthia Kersey's, the Unstoppable Foundation. In fact, in a couple of days, we've had, first I have a partner, Sandy Gallagher, who is a brilliant lady. She runs a company. She went over about 3-4 years ago with Cynthia Kersey. We built them in Kenya. And they get in, and she saw what was going on. Last year, we sent Corey Kelly, another gal in our company, with her 15-year-old daughter. And she went over. Every May, Cynthia Kersey goes, and so we send somebody with her. This year, Gina, my assistant, and Kim Klein, who's in our finance area, they went. And Gina had me crying when she came back. She had me on the phone. She said, Bob, if you could only see the good that we're doing there. And she went on and on. So the group of them that have been there are going to put on a presentation to everybody in the company so the whole company can really get involved in what we're doing.
Yeah,
And that's where we get our greatest joy.
Right, yeah. I've actually contributed to Unstoppable as well.
And it's an organization.
That really helped me personally because I didn't grow up with much at all. You know, very interesting story, of course. Oftentimes for Christmas, I haven't talked about this on the show before, but for a lot of Christmases, we would get free gifts from this, basically a food shelter. So like for 3 years in a row, we got the same gift. I kept getting Yahtzee every year, but I never learned how to play. We just play like craps or something with the dice. We're like 10 years old, 11 years old. And, so just different interesting situations like this. So we didn't grow up with much. So kind of getting out of that paradigm of struggle was difficult in the beginning because I would do things to, help a lot of people and receive a lot coming back. But I find a creative way to lose it, because I didn't change my thermostat for this stuff. So what really helped to serve me in my thinking was I can have so much more to contribute by building myself up financially, my financial health as well. And this is one of the big things that, really comes across in your new book, which I read through and I just devoured it, the ABCs of Success. And first of all, I want to know why you titled the book, The ABCs of Success.
Well, I didn't actually title it that. Torture Penguin, who published it worldwide, they put that name on it. And it does fit because I had the idea we should, like when you go to change a paradigm, you're changing your habitual behavior. Well, everybody's got little hang-ups in different areas, and sometimes they don't know what they are. Right. So I just took a lot of different ideas that we work with, and I wrote little articles on them, and we put them together. And they're from A to Z in the book. And so that's it fits, everybody has little hangups in their life.
Yeah.
And if they change those little hangups, everything changes, Yeah. And it all goes back to understanding ourselves, understand what makes us tick, and then trying to live the best life we can, trying to improve the quality of our life.
I thought it was a very fitting title, the ABCs of Success, because it's talking about something that's very elementary, the ABCs of something. And this is something we're not taught in school. We're not taught. I went to a traditional university, and student loans and that whole story, but there was not a success class. That's up to you. We're going to teach you some rudimentary skills. We're going to teach you about a particular subject matter, with, English or for something of that nature, or, mathematics, but not how to apply it in your life to be successful. There was no Success 101.
There's a lot of things that are not taught in school that we're missing. You will find absolutely brilliant people who are losing. They will have degrees coming off the end of their business card, but they're broke. You'll find other people who are functionally illiterate. They've never learned how to read or write, and yet they may be earning millions of dollars and building large organizations. We do not teach people who they are, what makes them tick. We don't really get them in touch with the spiritual essence of their personality. And we don't get them to stop and ask themselves, why am I doing this? Why am I getting these results? Do results just happen? They don't just happen. We've got to start to understand how and why they've happened. Right. And then change what we want to change. And I have found over the last 50 some years of studying this, I study it every day. I'm absolutely fascinated with it. We can truly have or do or be whatever we want. Mm-hmm. We're God's highest form of creation. We've got to learn how to utilize the potential we've got.
Absolutely. Well, you referenced the book is called ABC, so the building blocks, the fundamental guidelines to how we become our greatest selves. But you're building schools as well. Is there an early age? How can we begin this at an earlier stage? You 26, me probably about 27 before I started having some realizations. How can we start that earlier and maybe help our children know who they are?
Jade, that is a very good question. And as a matter of fact, I just finished a fairly large coaching call before I got on this call. And that question was asked by someone if they only had an hour to teach children, if they had an hour a day, if they were given an hour in a class, and I would suspect this woman was given an hour, what would she teach them? And I said, you can teach them anything that you can teach anybody else. We've got to get away from the idea they're children. They are human beings. They have a marvelous mind. Now think of this for a moment. The only thing a child is missing is vocabulary and experience. But the mind operates the same way with a young child as it does with an adult. And we teach children languages before they go to school. I had an associate over in Kuala Lumpur. I was going over there for a long time. At 4 years old, the little boy could speak 4 languages. They thought nothing of that. And that's very common in many parts of the world. Now, if a child can learn 4 languages before they go to school, why do we spend so much time getting them to play with blocks? You can teach a child to read before they can talk. Glenn Doman over around Philadelphia is doing that.
Yes.
And when they can talk, you can give them a book on the CAT scan and they'll read it. So I think we have to understand that a child has a marvelous mind, and the mind operates in a very orderly way, and you can teach it to children. I think one of the first things we should teach children is the difference between responding and reacting. I did that with a bunch of kids one time. It changed everything in their life. When we react to a person or a situation, we're giving that person or the situation control over us. When we respond, we're maintaining control.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the word responsibility, the ability to respond.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Excellent.
And so let's go ahead and dive in and talk a little bit about that structure in the ABCs. One of the first concepts you talked about in the book was the straight A's, right? Because that's one of those idealistic things we want to do in school. We want to hit those straight A's. So what are your straight A's?
Well, we have in here awareness, acceptance, alteration, and achievement. I think awareness is the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, you go way back to King Solomon, he said, no, you're getting get understanding. Well, understanding and awareness come together. As we understand, we develop an awareness. And when we become aware, that's all we ever can develop is awareness. Like people are not earning $100,000 a year because they want 100 a year. They're earning 100,000 a year because they're not aware of how to earn 100 a month. People are not alone and lonely because they enjoy it. They're alone and lonely because they're not aware of how to develop meaningful relationships. So we want to understand this concept of awareness. That's really what we're after. And then we want acceptance. We've got to accept new ideas. We've got to accept the idea that we have this potential and we've got the ability to change. And when we get that, then we have to learn alteration. We have to alter the concepts that are fixed in our mind. We are programmed genetically and environmentally. All our prejudice, all our hang-ups, they're programmed in. We didn't decide on them. We inherited them. Yeah. And then after birth, of course, we've got our environmental conditions, situations. And the last A would be achievement. And you can always tell, I think, by the results, you're going to know them. You can tell what a person's doing by what they're achieving. You can pretty well take a look at the results a person's getting and know what's going on inside. Yeah. It's not an accident. Everything that happens outside starts inside. Yeah. Everything you're teaching, it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
Precisely.
It starts with attitude. Attitude is the key to everything. You know, the only thing that we have complete and absolute control over is our attitude, our way of thinking. Viktor Frankl, that spent the war years in a German concentration camp, wrote a marvelous book, Man's Search for Meaning. He said that regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. We have complete and absolute control over our thinking, and that's where our attitude starts.
Yeah. You know, when I went through that, it would very quickly hit me when I was reading the book. The acceptance was a big one for me because I've seen this consistently be one of the big hangups for a lot of people and not really accepting their power, you know, not accepting that it's up to them to choose their response. It's up to them to choose their attitude, you know, accepting that you actually have the power to change. And that's like a game changer once you get that.
Well, but I think we have to go back and look at how we're raised. We're raised to live through our senses. We go by what we hear, see, smell, taste, touch. Go on out the street, be like the rest of the kids. The only thing you can't be like is another one. We're all unique, but we are raised to go by what we see. We get a report card. The report card tells us what kind of student we are. What the report card really tells us is where our mind was at for a few minutes, maybe 3 weeks ago. We've got to be taught to use our higher faculties. We have perception, intuition, the will, reason, imagination, memory. These are all higher faculties, and they are what separates us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. You know, we are the only creature on the planet that's totally disoriented in their environment. All the other little creatures on the planet are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. We are different. We have been given the ability to create our own environment, and most people don't know it. And so they complain they have to do this, they have to do that. The truth is they don't have to do anything. Yeah. They choose everything they do. Power of choice. J. Martin Covey wrote a marvelous book called Your Greatest Power. It was a little book, but it was dynamite. And your greatest power is your ability to choose.
And that's the power you just talked about, accepting.
Exactly. I mean, you really lay it all on the line too. And I really love your straight approach to, communication also in the book as well. And there was a really important chapter in a powerful section of the book on communication, and in particular, listening, which you called the great compliment. Can you talk about why this matters so much?
Well, when you're listening, first of all, you listen with your emotions. You don't listen with your ears. Frequently, you'll be talking to somebody, they hear what you're saying, but they're not listening to you. And you know they're not listening. When you listen, you're paying attention to a person. You're saying, I believe what you have to say is worthwhile. I am going to give you my full conscious attention. And you're emotionally involved. We listen with our emotions. We hear with our ears.
Right.
And I believe listening is extremely important. I was fortunate enough to study listening through Dr. Ralph Nichols way back in the late 60s. And you don't just listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes, you listen with your body. You'll find when a person's listening, they'll start to lean towards you. You watch people in an audience, maybe in a theater even, or in a seminar, you'll see them, they'll start to lean forward. Yeah. They're really into whatever's going on. Yeah. And it's pulling them toward it. It is a compliment, I think, to a person.
Yeah,
it is.
I totally agree. And by the way, Bob was leaning into the camera when he's doing that. And if you guys want to check out the video, head over to themodelhealthshow.com. You can check out the video. You can even see when he pulled out the card, his gold card from his pocket. It's so powerful that he's still doing this process because it works.
It does.
And this chapter also was really important for me because I feel that, being able to listen is a important quality in building relationships. And the number one influential factor in our health and in our success in life is our relationships. I truly believe that. And so it was, I believe it was Stephen Covey who said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is a big secret for everybody who might be having trouble in communicating and having positive, healthy relationships. Maybe it's with an intimate partner or maybe it's with a business partner, but we really need to understand first the other person. When we're always just kind of natural human propensity, because of how we're programmed, is to me first. Mm-hmm. This is a 50-50 relationship. It's not 50-50. It's literally not. It's 100% your responsibility to show up and to listen first, to understand where the person's coming from so that you can speak their language, if I may say that. And there was also, this goes way back, even St. Francis of Assisi talked about seeking first to understand so that you can be understood, right? So powerful. And it's a really, really important secret. And I hope everybody can walk away with that, to seek first to understand, because it's a really powerful principle in life.
Well, understanding is the polar opposite to worry and doubt.
Wow.
It is the polar opposite. Like in, out, up, down, hot, cold, there's a law of opposites. There's a law of the universe. And understanding can only be developed one way, and that's through study. There is no other way to develop. Now, there's many forms of study. Watching your show is a form of study. There's many forms of study, but you must study if you want to develop understanding. And if you're ever going to understand anybody else, you have to understand yourself. What we really want, and if we study ourselves, that's all I've ever studied, we automatically know the other person. We are all the same in that respect. We're a necessary part of the whole scheme of things. You take any part away from anything and it's not complete any longer. So we're a necessary part of the whole scheme of things. But the real beautiful truth is that we're all the same. We look different, we sound different, we come from different cultures, we eat different food, dress different, speak different languages. But when you get past culture, and culture is nothing but group habit, we're all the same. And when we can really understand that, that's when we're going to start communicating effectively.
Yeah. Totally agree.
There's only one problem in the whole world, and that's ignorance.
That is.
Ignorance. And I break that word. I'm a big student of lexicon. Ignoring what
state
is,
of
ignoring the
ignoring.
truth about all this stuff, you know? Love that. So in the book, you also shared some important insights about leadership. And so can you talk a little bit about what does leadership really mean and how can people apply it in their own day-to-day life?
Well, I think to lead other people effectively, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's a boss and there's a leader. Leader get people excited about improving the quality of whatever it is, themselves, their work, whatever they're doing. People follow leaders because they want to. People don't follow leaders because they have to. That becomes a form of dictatorship.
Yeah.
And that never works. The great leaders, people want to follow. And leaders inspire you. Leaders pull the very best out of you. Leaders know how to look inside and bring the best of you to the surface, cause you to look at the higher side of your own personality. What the world always is looking for, it's leader. Like it's silly to ask who's going to lead. The leader's going to lead.
Right.
And the leader just automatically emerges. If they threw 50 of us into a committee and say, you don't elect a leader, you may elect one, but the leader's going to lead, and it probably isn't the one that's elected.
Yeah, so true.
It does.
And
The
everybody,
leader knows how. They know how to get the best out of people.
absolutely. And everybody listening, every single person is a leader in some form or fashion.
Absolutely.
You know, and it might be in a family context. You know, you're a mom and you're leading the troops, you know, of children that you have, or in a context, you know, maybe you're a college student and you have your friends. You could be a leader in that group when it comes to certain tasks or certain things that you guys are doing together, or something bigger than that. You know, there's always a place that you could find out how you line up with this leadership information. This is why I was so happy that you put that in the book.
Well, we got everything in here from A to Z, Shawn.
Literally, yeah, the ABCs.
We've covered all the bases.
So I loved the section on effectiveness. This is this might be the second time I've ever said pet peeve.
It is the second I've heard.
Because I said it on the show
first
one
time
time.
when you were saying,
But this is
before.
another pet peeve of mine, because there's a difference between working and being effective. You know, and I want to make that clear distinction for people whenever possible. But I love this section on effectiveness. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between producers and almosts?
Well, you know, I'm having a studio built right behind my house here, and they're just about done. And I was out talking to Max, one of the workers, and he is without question one of the best workers I've ever seen. And he looks after all the details. He makes certain that it's done and done well. You see, the effective person is working towards a particular end, and they want to make sure that everything is really done well. Most people are just busy. They're not goal-oriented. They're not effective. They're busy, and they're busy for busyness sakes. We want to be effective. We want to know what we're doing. We want to know why we're doing it. And then we want to get the very best result that we're capable of getting. And it doesn't matter how good it is, we can make it better. I think better is a beautiful word. I love it. You can always make it better. And we've got to understand there's no right way to do anything. It can be a good way, it can be a valid way, but there's always a better way. The effective person is always looking for a better way to make it happen.
That's right.
So powerful.
Yes, it is.
I think that's what your show is doing. I think you're helping people understand how to enjoy a more fulfilled life.
Yes.
On all aspects of life. So you're bringing on different personalities, different people who have gained expertise in different areas. And I'm going to broadcast this show through our company because we meet a lot of people. I think you've got a heck of a good show.
I received that, Bob. Thank you so much.
Certainly do.
You know, there was a great meme going around on the interwebs, you know, on Instagram and on Facebook. There was this little picture. It was like, it was from a movie, but there was a movie about like the ancient Mayans. And so one of the guys like standing over the other guy and looking kind of disappointed in him. And it says, this was an exercise meme. And it said something like, when your gym partner doesn't finish his last rep, and he says to the guy, we will call you almost, right? But almost doesn't count, you know? And that's, you know, it's also a song out there. But, you know, it's just understanding that there's these producers who consistently get stuff done, and then there's almost. And you can quickly shift that spectrum over to being a producer by applying these principles and again, just really changing your inner game.
And that energy in a positive way is what I really want to emphasize, because it's very true that leaders will emerge naturally and people will want to follow.
Yeah.
But we've seen that go awry when it's things that aren't for a greater good.
Yeah.
People will follow an inner nature or something that they enjoy doing, but until it lines up with that greater purpose for all of us, like you said, Bob, that we all matter, then we're not going to see it happen effectively.
Yeah,
that's true. Mm-hmm. That is true. That's very true.
So, Bob, I think that this is probably the most or one of the most important sections of the book where you talked about self-image. And this is something that a lot of people battle with, their picture of themselves and how they view themselves. So talk a little bit about some of your insights in that realm.
Yes.
Well, that, Shawn, is without question one of the most important subjects. Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a phenomenal book on it, Psychocybernetics, way back around 1960. And it was considered one of the greatest psychological breakthroughs of his generation. Self-image, unfortunately, is developed before the person can even walk or talk. Our self-image is formed in our little life when our subjective mind is wide open. It's part of it's genetic and the other part's environmental. Our mind is wide open, our subconscious mind. And whatever's going on around us goes right into our subconscious mind. Like almost all welfare recipients are third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients.
Yeah.
Now, there's geniuses locked up in those welfare areas. Yeah. Every one of them has genius within them. They have perfection within them. But it'll never come to the surface because they don't wake up. I had an absolutely horrible self-image. That's why I wouldn't learn. That's why I wouldn't go to school. I never thought anything of me. I wouldn't try to get a good job. And when I started to read Think and Grow Rich, and I started to listen to a man by the name of Ray Stanford, he got me looking at myself. He said, Bob, you're telling me reasons why you can't win, why you're broke. Let's go to the other side and talk about how you can. And he got me thinking of all this. And then I got into really studying self-image. And I found that we do have a cybernetic mechanism in our mind. It's like a thermostat. It's a science of control and communication in the animal and some machines. And this cybernetic mechanism, this self-image, it controls what we're doing. And if we wander off course, it'll bring us right back. If a person's overweight, it's how they see themselves. And they say, I'm going to lose weight. They've got to change the image or they're never going to lose weight. Yeah. And they shouldn't lose it anyway. They should release it. Yeah. When you lose anything, you're programmed to look for it. Right. And you always find it. So we've got to understand that we have an image of ourselves in our subconscious mind, but we have the godlike ability to change it. I worked at changing my self-image. I changed the way I talk. I changed the way I walk. I changed the way I dress. I changed the way I work. I changed the way I study. I changed everything about me, a little bit at a time. So the image or the person you're looking at now is not the person that picked up this book 55 years ago. And I modeled it. I built the image, and then I caused myself to live that way. And it caused a lot of discomfort. William James gives the idea. He said, act like the person you want to become. I encourage people in our programs to get Stella Adler's book, The Art of Acting. The Art of Acting is a great book. Stella Adler never actually wrote the book. A man named Kissel took all her lessons after she died and turned it into a book. So when you read the book, you're going to her acting classes. Stella Adler was a phenomenal acting teacher. She studied under Stanislavski, the Russian who perfected method acting. Marlon Brando wrote the foreword in the book, and he was the first method actor to hit star status. But we have to, when we're changing the self-image, we have to change the way we act. And other people have difficulty with it. They know you the way they are. They don't want you to change. Because if you change, they have to adapt to the change in you. Yeah. See, people don't resist change. People resist being changed.
Yes.
That's right.
We've got to change ourselves. We've got to build a new image, a picture in our mind. We've got to see ourselves the way we want to be, and then we have to live with it. You go to the gym workout, that's what you do. You build a picture of how you want to see this arm, and you build that picture, and then you build the body. Well, you build the life in your mind. Take your pen and write out how you want to live. And always start by writing, I'm so happy and grateful now that. And the second you write it, you've got it intellectually. The moment you impress it upon your emotional mind, you've got it emotionally. And it's only a period of time till it manifests on the physical plane.
Yeah.
Spirit works from a higher to a lower potential.
Bob, I've got to share this with you. You know, this is something, you okay, Jay?
I'm breathless almost. Literally.
Yeah.
By what he just said.
Well, I've got to share this with you. You know, that principle, that opening phrase, the prefix to changing our life. I'm so happy and grateful now that. I learned that from you many years ago, and it really helped to be the catalyst for this show to even exist.
Yeah.
You know, this was something that I was in my senior year of college, still not knowing how I've, just recovered from a really serious health issue myself, but I'm still not understanding how to share this. And I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and it's like, well, should I open a gym? And now, I don't want anything to do with that right now. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to serve. And just starting to script out what I wanted my life to look like, all of these pieces just kind of started to fall in place, funny enough. But it wasn't like magic. I was taking action in the world. I was moving towards those things every day with this passion and with this consistency because I knew where I was going. And I always like to share this with people whenever I get the opportunity is that the number one driving force of the human being is to stay congruent with the ideas that you hold of yourself. So if you're perceiving yourself, as Bob is talking about, as a person who is struggling and overweight and I just can't seem to crack the code or I'm always broke, you might get a little bit, but it's going to come right back. You're going to come right back to where your thermostat is set because you have to affirm what you believe about yourself. It's the number one driving force of human beings. And,
right. And
also changing the person that you become. Instead of worrying about the external thing of weight loss, it's understanding that I have to change the person that's coming to the party. I have to change the person that's coming to the fit party. The inner game. How does that person look? How does that person walk? How does that person talk? How does that person function in a relationship? How does that person dialogue when it comes to food within themselves? Is this person afraid each meal? Or is this person joyful about the opportunity of adding something wholesome to their body? All these things, that inner game is going to help to create that outer game. And the last thing that I picked up from what you just shared, Bob, which is so phenomenal, which is stop right now this losing weight. Never say it again. I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
Release it because you just said it. When you lose something, the natural human tendency is to find it again. So let it go. Let it go.
I love that. And
it's not just a human tendency, it's programming.
Yes, you
said
it.
Literal program in your subconscious. It's automatic. The program operates without you even thinking about it.
That's
and
like,
it's got to be done that way.
That's like Shawn used to teach us, and he would say, there's like the set point that your body and your mind is used to. And once you start getting away from that, you may be making progress, but then your body and your senses will look back and try to get back to it. And then you keep finding yourself trying to get back into the place that you just left, that you were hoping to leave behind.
It's like a child in school. Let's say they're getting a C and D average. So they get grounded. They have to stay in after school. They've got to study. And they go and they have a test and they get a B. Wonderful. Now, the restrictions are listed. They'll go right back to a C and D average. They were pushing. It doesn't work. Force negates. They never change the image of themselves. If we take children and teach them about the image, have them write their own report card, have them see themselves with those grades, and they operate like they've got those grades, that's the grades they're going to get. See, I have proved this to myself. I proved it in maximum security prisons when I was going in there. I proved it in corporations, and I proved it in my own life. I went from being a very unhappy, confused individual to being a very happy, healthy, wealthy individual. I'll be 81 in a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks, and I've got more energy than most people in their 20s. I have absolutely no intentions of slowing down. That's a bunch of nonsense. You see, we grow up, we've got this program. You get older, you want to go a little slower, take it easy. That's a bunch of crap. If all the power is omnipresent, you shouldn't have to slow down. You should be speeding up. You've got more knowledge, you should go faster. You've got more energy. See, the triggering mechanism to release energy is desire. Well, we see the difference. We say male, female. Like females earn 70% of what men earn. That's nonsense. That's an old idea. It's historic. We should get rid of it. But we say this culture, this group, that group. We've got to really understand we're all the same. We're God's highest form of creation. All the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is omnipresent. The way to build a cell phone has always been here. Yet we had to become aware of how to build it. All the knowledge, all the power there ever was is omnipresent. We are God's highest form of creation. Our spiritual DNA is perfect. And spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. So that's what we should be moving towards. Greater results.
Always dropping knowledge bombs. And by the way, this takes me back to the when we had on Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Yes.
And when she said that age is no barrier, it's just a limitation you place on your mind.
That's right.
And Bob really being the example of that and talking about some of the faulty conditioning, we just believe like, okay, so I'm getting older, this is supposed to happen. You're literally programming every cell in your body to listen to that, and then you get to hear from somebody like Bob who's playing at a high level, and it can be a paradigm shifter, but you have to tune yourself into that because there's 10,000 other messages saying otherwise,
That's right.
But we still have that choice, and it's really about, again, one of the principal things in the book is acceptance, that this is the way that it is. So
Shawn, what we should really do, we don't need to worry about 10,000 other things. What we want to go to is the truth. Let's forget the facts. The facts are always changing. Go to the truth. The truth is that you and I are made from a single power that is all-knowing and all-powerful. And I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you've done up to this moment. We are loaded with potential. Age, gender, none of that has anything to do with it. The thing that has to do with it is, what do you want? Wants are of a spiritual nature. You don't want to get, you want to grow. So we should always be going after bigger and better goals.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Wonderful. Want to grow.
So
versus
you want to get it to the point where you have 1 million downloads every day. You have 10 million downloads every day. There's enough people out there and you can do it.
Say
Hope
that,
it,
Bob.
and it'll happen.
Say that,
That's
Bob.
what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I was just sharing with Bob before the show that and thank you to everybody listening. We hit a record in downloads this month, hundreds of thousands of downloads each month, but we hit a record, and it was just really, it put me in awe to see the big jump. But you changed my paradigm again, just with talking with you today of what's possible, because I know that this message is important, and I know how valuable that we all are in helping to make this happen. And so in closing, Bob, I just want to thank you so much for all the work that you've done and for being a leader yourself and really paving a way for so many people to change their lives and to be more of a beneficial presence on the planet themselves. And I want to ask you a question I like to ask my guests. So what is the model that you are here to set, Bob, with the way that you're living your life?
My whole purpose is to live and work in a prosperous environment that encourages productivity and pleasure, so that we can be better equipped to serve our family, our company, our community, our nation, and ultimately the world.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like to lead people to the truth that lies within themselves. But I've got a suggestion for you.
Yes.
I want to suggest you get a hold of the last 10 people or 20 people that have been guests on your show. And I will write a letter to them through you, that we all send a letter to the mailing list, that everybody encourage somebody to tune into your show on a specific day, and just see how many millions you can do in a day. And a lot of them are going to come back.
Wow.
It's done. Bob, thank you. Yeah, I'll accept it. I'll accept
write the letter and I'll send it to you. I'll have Gina do it within the next couple of days. I'll get the letter to you. Then you send it out to the last 10 or 20 guests, and we all agree we'll pick a date. You pick the date, and we will do a mailing. Like, we send millions of mailings out every week. So we'll do a mailing. We want you to tune in to Shawn's, Stewart's, or Stevenson's webcast on this particular day at this time.
Absolutely. Wow. You see this, guys? Everybody right now listening, this is the power of changing your perception and changing your paradigm and taking action. For us to line up and for me to even have this conversation with Bob, it's it's a huge, it's a revelation for me in my life and just affirmation of what's possible.
You got a good show.
Thank you.
You and Jake do a great job. You really do.
Thank you, Bob.
More people should know what you're doing.
I received that. And again, I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And, again, you've had a huge impact on my life. And I hope that everybody today got a lot of value out of this. I know that I did. And take this information and apply some of this stuff. And Bob, can you let everybody know where they can pick up your new book and also just connect with you?
You go into any bookstores or go to penguin.com.
Penguin.com.
Any place where you buy books, it looks like that, ABCs of selling or of success, or you can do penguin.com.
Awesome. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. This is one of those moments that's a real game changer if you're attuned to it. There's so much layered in here for you to change your life and to get the results that you really deserve. But it starts with you realizing that you deserve it. Yeah. It's so important. And I hope that Bob's message really resonated with you, and I hope that you connect with him. And stay tuned for a whole lot more. Things are going to get a lot bigger and better really soon. And I appreciate you so much. Yeah. So take care. Have an amazing day. And I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, Jade.